Fanatec just killed Logitech and Thrustmaster by dropping the price of their bundle for the CSL DD to $399, and that includes the base, a steering wheel, and the pedals. At $399, this is an absolute game changer as it allows you to come into sim racing with a direct drive wheel, having access to a huge ecosystem. This won't be a review. I already have a CSL DD review and a review on the pedals. You can check them out, they'll be on the description. What this video is about is checking out the experience at this level as if you were coming into sim racing or you just started. Going quickly through everything, this is the wheelbase. I know it's a DD Pro, not a CSL DD, but it's exactly the same thing. It's just a way that it looks, it's different, but they are basically the same thing. So it'll have the QR stem, so you can use different wheels that if you want to. This, for example, is the P1 that comes in a pack, but later on, you want to add a wheel like this McLaren GT3, you can add that. You can also use the QR1 non-light, which is this one. This wheel starts at $199 with the CSL QR1 light, but if you want, you can add this one over here. In terms of practice, for a wheel of 5 Nm, it's really not that big of a deal using one or the other. At the back, you have the connectors for a shifter, pedals, handbrake, power, and USB-C, which is pretty nice. So that means if you want to expand this with the ecosystem, there's no problem whatsoever. You do not need to use a USB cable. And in the case of the DD Pro, if you want to connect it to the PlayStation, of course, you can use all of this and it will be connected and accepted in Gran Turismo 7, for example. Since I'm doing this video from the point of view that you are starting or you just started, I'm assuming that you don't have a lot of equipment. And in order to mount this, there are a couple of ways. You can either use these rails over here to install it on a wheel stand or in SimRig. If you have that, you can also mount it laterally if you want through these rails, two at each side. However, if you do not have a wheel stand or a sim rig, you need to use something like this, which is basically the desk mount. This is the cheapest desk mount at 30 pounds. It does its job, but honestly, I don't really like this very much. It creaks a lot. So for me, this is only usable with this wheel up to 5 Nm, and even that, it's stretching a little bit. The mounting system on a G29-923 will be better for the torque it produces. It also makes it a little bit more stable because the wheel is longer and it doesn't really feel that it's going to move up and down. Then we have the P1 V2, which is essentially a refresh of the P1. Comes with the QR1 light instead of the old QR1 style that broke a lot. In terms of ergonomics, it's really good. It comes with LEDs over here. It will tell you the RPM on the top with the color. It will also be able to, can control your settings via an LED that will be here. In terms of ergonomics, I like this very much. This is a very comfortable wheel, and the shifter, even though it's not magnetic, it's actually pretty nice. Then we have the pedals. The CSL pedals are the weakest link of this. They are not bad. They have a lot of potential for the future if you want to upgrade them. Comes with a throttle and a brake. Both of them are Hall sensors. They use, over here at the back for the brake, they use a rubber or a foam to give some sort of pressure. However, you can upgrade this either with the CSL clutch kit, which costs about 40 euros, or you can use the load cell kit for 140. The 140 kit is actually quite expensive. If you were to buy this by itself, it will cost around 200 euros, so it's a very expensive load cell kit. But as it is, it allows you to do your job, which is throttling up and braking the car. It's actually not too bad for a brake of this type. Mounted using the desk clamp is actually quite simple. You just basically need to assemble this. Takes about 10 seconds. You slide it into position. You pick up the wheelbase, slide it into position, and then basically tighten up. Comes with this extra knob, so it gives you a little more torque. It is really not too bad at 5 Newton meters, but you can see from the back it lifts a bit, so you need to be careful. And because it's where it's situated, you actually need to go back a little more because the wheelbase is standing, outside of the desk instead of being into the desk, for example, how G93 does. And then to connect the wheel, essentially just slide it in and tighten it up, and it's basically there. This QR isn't really the best on the market. For me, it's the Modza one, but it does its job particularly well at this type of power at 5 nm, and it's actually pretty nice at 8 nm as well. Let's start doing this at Shutoku. Shutoku is one of the first things likely that newcomers into sim racing will be doing because it's fun, and it's also Assetto Corsa, and Assetto Corsa is a really good way to talk about force feedback. Now, the wheelbase continues to be fantastic years after being launched. It's able to give you all the force that you need. It's quite detailed. Everything is instantaneous, and the best thing is that there isn't any cogging feel. So you get the raw information from the sim. You can of course modify all the things you want on the wheelbase. There's ability to add or remove dampening to make less or more filtered. There's a lot of flexibility in this wheelbase. And at 5 nm, which I'm currently running, it's plenty snappy enough. Even though I would prefer the 8 nm, but it's plenty snappy enough and definitely more than enough for the desk. I've tried to do some drifting on the desk with this desk clamp, and it's essentially asking for trouble. The desk clamp is usable for drifting. I wouldn't recommend it because, you know, the back of the clamp does lift a bit. It's not the most secure clamp, and to be fair, this is not the best desk to do that because, as you can probably see from the camera, it's moving up and down because it's really not that solid. It's just a hack desk that I have. One thing on this wheelbase that is noticeable compared to the DD1 that I'm running at the moment, and every time I run this, I'm always thinking that I should be coming back to the CSL DD, is that, well, this is a smoother wheel than the DD1. The DD1 does have a little bit of cogging, it feels. You need to notice it, but this is definitely smoother and feels like it is a more precise wheel than the DD1. Could be just me. But it really tells you that even at this price point, you can have a really nice quality wheelbase. In Assetto Corsa, it's always a pleasure to drive. You get a lot of precision, and if you have a wheel stand or you have a sim rig, better. Drifting with this wheel, it's actually pretty nice. At 5 nm, more than enough, especially with this wheel. 8 nm better if you are looking for something bigger. You really feel the ABS when you go too much into the brakes, so, you know, it's basically, for this price, almost a perfect wheel. Next up, it is the wheel itself, the P1. I really like it. It's a light wheel, so it works quite well for a wheelbase like the CSL DD that doesn't have a lot of torque, all things considered. It has way more torque than the T300, but, you know, it makes everything more snappy. It feels solid enough. It definitely feels more solid than the G93 or the T300, but not as solid as other things that I've tried out there. But then again, this is only, what, 120 euros if you buy it separately. The ergonomics are absolutely bang on for me. I do like the rubber they use. It feels a little bit less nasty than the McLaren or even the BMW wheel that costs, well, that costs 1,500 euros. The shifters are good. I mean, they're not the best shifters out there, but they are plenty good enough, and also the buttons are also pretty nice to feel. The pedals, you know, they serve their purpose. I'm not gonna say they're better than that because they are not. The throttle is pretty nice. I don't particularly like the brake because I'm used to, you know, eye-level brakes, including the CSL Elite V2 pedal brakes, which for me are, you know, the best brake for the price. But it does its purpose. It is precise enough. You won't get the precision of a load cell. For that, you need to spend the 139 extra, but it's there. The potential for upgrade, it's there if you want to. You can add a clutch if you don't want to spend that much money. So the potential for modification and to be in the ecosystem is definitely there, and that's the biggest advantage of Fanatec as of this moment. I think this is really perfect at this day and age, even with newcomers like Camus. You know, at this price point, with all the options and potential it has, it's very hard to ask for better than this, in my opinion. The wheelbase continues to be an absolute dream as of this moment, and if you get it, I think, especially as a newcomer into sim racing, you're going to be like very impressed with it. And that's basically it for the Ready to Race bundle with the CSL DD. At this price point, it's an absolutely crazy value proposition coming into sim racing. I know it's more expensive than the G93. I know it's more expensive than the T300RS, but in my opinion, I think this is worth the price difference. It's really not that much, all things considered. And you get into this and you get a wheelbase that is able to get you a lot of options. If you want a new steering wheel, you don't need to buy something else. On Fanatec, you have actually nice steering wheels like the McLaren wheel, which isn't really that expensive, all things considered. You can upgrade the pedals later if you want to, and you can upgrade the power on this if you want to, even though, in my opinion, the PSU is a bit too expensive. And that's basically it for me. Tell me in the comments what you think about this bundle with this value, and I would like to thank all the members for making this a possibility. If you want to become a member and support the channel, please do so. And why don't you check the review of the CSL DD? That will be somewhere here.